Greetings, everyone. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to episode 55 of the I Thrive podcast. It's your boy, Sundin Esperance. Today, I got with me Sister Tania from First Church, who will be sharing her testimony today. How you doing today, Sister Tania?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much, brother.
Wonderful, wonderful. Before we begin, as you all know, this podcast affiliates itself with one church and one church only. That is First Church of our Lord Jesus Christ, where the leader, teacher, and guide is Apostle Pastor Gino Jennings. If you want to know how you can hear the teachings, you can go on YouTube and type Gino Jennings and you'll see it there. If you want to know if there's a church close to you, you can go on the truthofgod.com. Search for a local temple and see which one is nearest to you. If you want to get baptized right in the name of Jesus Christ, you can go on the truthofgod.com as well. Fill out the baptismal request, and a local minister or the main point of contact of that area will reach out to you and set you up to get baptized. As I say, moreover, brothers and sisters, these podcasts are here to encourage you. They're here to help you, and they're here to open the eyes of those who are watching from outside. Because yes, as much as this is helpful to brothers and sisters, there could be sinners watching this, realizing that the sister or brother giving their testimony, it's what they are currently in. So I'm truly grateful and thankful every single time a sister or a brother takes the time out their day or evening to come on and share their testimony, because I'm telling you, not only does I could speak for myself, it is an encouragement to me. Sometimes I come on and I'm running these interviews, I'm discouraged. But after I hear the testimonies, it's like another sense of encouragement, brothers and sisters. Because I say it's a hard teaching to be in, very difficult. There's not going to be, look, most of me being in this thing, more days, it's been rough for myself. It's been more rough days than, the nice and happy and at ease days, because it's just such a battle. You don't want to go back to what you were in. And especially when the teaching is hitting so hard and you see yourself, you don't want to be in those wrongs. So I'm grateful today to have Sister Tania, who's going to be sharing her testimony. That's enough for me talking. The floor is yours for you, sister. How did you come into the truth of God?
Greetings again, everybody. Well, it's a very interesting story. I came into the truth of God because, thank God, I have a brother and sister who found somehow the telecast from Pastor Gino Jennings. And at the time, they were moving toward the way of holiness. I was moving toward an apostolic, doctrine. And I was really searching hard. I wanted to be whatever it was that was going to get me the closest to God. So I was looking into Amish, Islam, Catholic, everything. And I always thought it was just beautiful that these women covered in some sort of way. So I knew that was a piece of it. But then I also came across a clip of an old Bible. And I remembered back in the day, I used to have my hands on a Bible. It seemed like the books in the Bible I was reading, which I had a Good News Bible at the time. And I was just like, this is not all the books. This can't be it. So I'm like all over the internet, my sister and I, and we're like looking for the books and everything. We're finding out that, yeah, there is a Bible much older than the one we had. So the first thing we did was we went out, we started looking for a Bible that had all the books. And the only Bible that we could find in the Bible stores was one that had, it was a Good News version. And it had everything except the book of Jasher, I believe. And of course, the text is different.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is it. I'm getting this Bible. Now, and I was still fighting them, but luckily I have a very driven sister. So I'm in this apostolic church. I can't begin to tell you the things that went on in that church that let me know I was in the wrong place.
Wow.
So I joined that church because I wanted my children to have a better education. I had no intentions on joining their church, but that was a stipulation. They had a school. So my children were going to go to their school, and they were kind of like, that's a part of our curriculum. They have to come to church. And if they don't come to our church, you have to get something signed saying that they went to some church. So I was like, okay, whatever. I don't have a church. So I started to go to that church. So they offered me a job there. I took the job. It's the best thing I ever could have done for my life, because I was able to get behind the scenes and see how crooked and how terrible some of these false churches are. Now, before I even arrived at that point, I had fell out of church because I was in a Baptist church. And it was the first time in my life I saw what I considered to be like someone's face shape shift. Like I literally saw evil come across this man's face. Now I looked up to him. I thought he was a great guy. I thought he was just the most nicest person you ever wanted to meet. One day, one of my children found a $10 bill on the seat on a pew at the church. And he was just so excited. He was like, Mom, you know, he wants to give it back. So I'm like hunting down the right person to give this $10 back to. And that's when I saw his face, like an evil just came over his face. And he just took it. He didn't say thank you, anything. He just kind of snatched it and went on. So I was like, okay, now this is not right. Like, I don't like this. I need to get out of this church. But my husband was not ready to move. It wasn't just that, it was a series of things. You know, they didn't want to marry myself and my husband for no good reason. No reason at all. Just didn't want to do it. Until another church called them and said, well, what's the problem? Is there some reason why you won't marry them? No, there isn't. So that forced that pastor into marrying us. When we did our marriage counseling, that pastor, I was telling my husband we should abstain from, you know, any kind of relations. We already had all our children. We already did everything backwards. This was us trying to right or wrong. So I had sat down for our marriage counseling, which was nothing compared to, I've been in counseling with Pastor Jennings, and boy, Lord have mercy. Wow, this was like nothing at all. So I take my husband in there because I'm like, Pastor, tell my husband that, you know, we shouldn't be, you know, we should be abstaining. And he was like, I mean, he literally said, well, you've been giving it to him. I mean, I don't see what the problem is. You know, I'm with him. And he laughed, they laughed and chuckled it off. And I was
so the pastor, was that the pastor at the Apostolic or
the Calvary Baptist Church? This is why I ran from that church and ended up Apostolic.
So wait. We have to rewind that, you know, just rewind what you just said now. So
I go into this marriage counseling. He just gives us a paper questionnaire to figure whatever. And I'm telling my husband, we should abstain. We shouldn't be continually doing the things, you know, until we get married. And I'm trying to get him to back me up. I'm like, Pastor, don't you think we should, you know, abstain from having relations? You know, we shouldn't be doing that. And he was like, well, he said, I'm on his side. I mean, I feel like you've been doing it. You know, you guys have you've been giving it to him. So I don't see why, you know. And I was just like, you know, in my mind, I'm like, as soon as I can get myself out of here, I'm getting out of here. Just a series of things. And I was going to leave, but I had advice from another female friend of mine who was calling herself some sort of pastor. And she was saying, don't disturb your husband. Don't make him leave. If you feel like you have to go, you go, but you leave him there until he's, you know, he feels like he's ready to come out. So that's what I did. I took my children and I left. Each time until I got the holiness, I literally took my children and I left because my husband and I weren't on the same accord. He was never ready to leave when I was. So we tried another church and they knocked on our door. We came up and you're not going to believe, like they started running around in a circle saying boot camp, boot camp. They were running all around the church. So I'm sitting there like, and then they start bringing out this huge trash bag, huge body bag, trash bags. I tell you, no lie, I'm not kidding. And they're like, everybody come up to the front and start just throwing your cares because the bags, they're so heavy and they're doing all these things in the front of the church. And I'm like this. I tap my husband. He doesn't want to be rude and get up. I don't care. I'm leaving. I said, that's it. So that's how I ended up in the Apostolic Church. I'm like, oh my goodness, this has to be the place. It's apostolic. There's apostles in the Bible. Now, the day, brother, I got there, one of their children goes to my children. Now, that should have been the light bulb right there, and says, I hope the pastor and his wife burn in hell. My children run back to me. And this is one of their children. They had adopted 2 children who they treated very, very poorly. Now, I didn't know that at first, you know, but this is my first day. I'm interviewing my kids, you know, or they're in the hallway playing. They're like, Mom, I want to get out of here because their son just said he hopes they burn in hell. I'm like, well,
how old were they at that time?
The children at this time, I believe, were 11. 11 and 14. I believe this is the 11-year-old, because he was a little bit more outspoken than the older one. You could tell like there was some sort of abuse going on because he was very shy, very drawn. But the little one, he was very outspoken. And he was just like, I hope they burn in hell. So my kids come and tell me, and I'm like, look, kids are so bad. You know how you kids are. You know, I'm like, you never know what they're over here doing. They probably just got in trouble. So I'm like chastising my kids. So many things happen. Just to wrap up a few things that stuck out in my mind. Because the sister I have, she's going to First Church. So she's not going to leave me there because she wants to pull me out of that church. So what she does is, I'm working there. She comes there, brings food, and feeds the entire school. She's just there watching and overseeing. She wants to see what's going on. So she's popping up, volunteering time, and she's steady telling me, you got to get out of here. This is not right. You know, this and that. And I'm like, y'all just don't know. You think your church is right. And I'm like arguing back and forth with her. You got your way. I got my way. Go away. So, and they're dressing, the women are dressing modest and everything. So I'm like, this is the right way. You know, this is apostolic. What is this holiness you're talking about? That doesn't make any sense to me. I couldn't hear her. And they were doing everything, interventions, putting pastor on the TV. And I was picking them apart. I was like, see, this is what I'm talking about. He's going off fast and flipping through all these scriptures. I can't keep up with that. I don't know what he's saying. He's talking fast. I don't agree, because he needs to slow down. Like, I'm picking them apart. So in the church, I noticed that something was piercing me from Pastor Jennings, because I'm the secretary, I'm the lunch lady, I'm the teacher's aide, I'm all these things in this church and in their school. So now he's telling me to go and fetch different things, sermons. Well, it sticks out to me, like, why are the sermons written down? So apparently I heard that even when I wasn't trying to hear it. And then they would raise offering. And they would joke about it. Well, I'm the secretary, so I'm there to hear it. And they would say things like, we're not going to let your pastor raise the offering because he's not going to ask the people for anything. He's not going to make them give, but I'm going to raise the offering. And they would be talking about how much they're going to get and laughing. And they would tell me no women preachers. And then we had a woman preacher come in, and she came in with a force. And I was just sitting there like, oh, you know, all these things are going wrong. They had us up on the Tarian line, and they were whispering to us saying, say this, telling us to speak in fake tongues. Well, again, my husband is like, don't be rude, but you know, I'm sorry. This is like my kid's soul. Yeah. I interrupt the whole line. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. So he didn't want to pull that pastor to the side. I pulled him to the side. And I was just like, do you know that your pastor that you had speaking today was telling my kids and myself and my husband to pretend we're speaking in tongues up here on the Tarian line? And he was like, no, really? Was he doing that? And I was telling my husband, I was like, I'm telling you, I got one foot out the door on this thing. Mm-hmm. I'm about to get out of here because this does not seem right. So then I went to him about some form of abuse I was in. And I brought like proof to him, and I was just like trying to get his help. And when I tell you, it was just like, he laughed it off type of thing, like a, wow, I'm sorry that happened. But there was like no counsel. There was nothing. So I decided it was time to go, and I left. And that's how I came to Pastor Gino Jennings.
So you knew about First Church before you left the Apostolic Church?
Yeah, and I was fighting it. I didn't want to move. I thought I found the right place because it was like apostolic. So it just made sense to me. And it didn't feel right all the time, because you could tell the men were like, you know, it was just weird. They were gawking. It was a very weird situation. And there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes that I got to see that pastor was actually doing. And the pastors he was associated with, because they were like a bigger church. Like this was just one little church, one little Amazing Grace. And then there was like this huge new Greater Life Ministries or something like that. And it was just very, very bad. Everything Pastor Jennings was speaking about, they want money, the women preachers, the highness. And that pastor kept saying, don't go to that church. He knew my sister was trying to pull me out. So he would pull me to the side and say, don't go there. He's nothing but a S.C. Johnson. That's what he is. He's he's crazy, he's indoctrinated, he's just trying to, you know, sway you this way and that way. They don't let their women's wear certain colors, they don't do this, they don't do that. Like, he was really pulling on me bad, and he was like, whatever you do, stay away from there. And then my Bible disappeared with all the books, that went away. So like, they kind of took that while we were out one time, and it was just a bunch of stuff. So I left that church, and I was just like, I'm not going to any church. Yeah. Now, I knew about Pastor Jennings, but I felt like that so many other things happened. I was just done. I was like, I'm not dealing with any churches. That's it. I've been to how many churches now trying to find God, and this is not happening for me. So I'm just not going to go anywhere. And my sister, you know, she was persistent. So she kept coming for me. She kept coming to me. And eventually I said, okay, fine, I'll come to church. And my husband was like, don't take my kids to that church, because he's still thinking about what my pastor said, the other pastor. And he's like, don't take my kids there. I'm forbidding you to take them. I don't want my kids anywhere around that. And I was just like, well, we're going. So, and we left, and he decided, well, if my kids are going, I'm going. So he came. And he was in there trying to prove Pastor Jennings wrong. He had his Bibles open, and he was looking, and he was like, I'm going to get this man on something. I'm telling you. And we were like that at the Apostolic Church too. We like had 3 and 4 Bibles open, and we saw them like messing up scripture that was right there and saying things that weren't in the Bible. And the whole time, you know, he's trying to just look straight ahead, because he knows his wife is about to be over there like, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Because I didn't mind interrupting. I was just kind of like, they're telling lies up here. Like, I don't like it. I'm getting out of here. So when I left there, my husband stayed again, but I pulled out. And then when he came to First Church, he was like trying to prove Pastor Jennings wrong. He was back there like, I'm going to get this guy on something, but he couldn't. So that's how we ended up at First Church. We ended up there because finally my husband was like, all right, this guy has this man has the truth. I'm going to go ahead and.
Wow. No, so how long were you in, I believe, Calvary Baptist and the Apostolic Church? Like, how many years was that mixed up until finally you came out?
We started at Calvary, I want to say in 2003. And because they gave us so much trouble with the marriage and all that mess like that, it didn't last very long. I'll say we were going, but not really so much so until after we got married in 2004. We might have stayed till like 2005. And usually wherever I went, my family came. So my mother came because I was there. My brother that went to First Church, my sister, everybody came because I was there. So we all joined that church. And when I left, some of them were still there. No one came with me to the Apostolic Church, but we signed up we joined as members in 2007 for my children to go to school. It was very short-lived because of the things going on behind the scenes. The tongues, the raising the offering and taking money from people. I mean, literally putting somebody out in the crowd going, brother, the Lord told me you have 10,000, another, no, what did he say? Another $100 or something like that. And that brother bucked back. He was like, oh, no, he didn't. Like, he was not giving it up. And everybody's looking like, oh, okay. I'm like, please don't call on me. Please, because I don't have anything, right? And, you know, after that, we went from like August to like December. And when I tell you, we had to go. Like, I was like flipping a desk over on somebody at that point because it had gotten just that bad between the pastor and his wife and all the chaos in the church. And this church, it was the first heads up was we were the members. Me, my husband, our children, we were the members. That was it. There was nobody else there. Unless their other churches came in, we were it. That was it. Nobody, even people whose children had to come because that was part of the curriculum, they would literally maybe fall in here or there, but they would never like stay to attend church or anything like that. So it should have been like, you know, a lot of things that didn't allow me to join, but I joined because I was like, well, this is beautiful. I'll have access to a pastor. I can ask him all these questions. I can like have, you know, I can talk to him all the time. I'm his secretary. It was That experience, thank God it was short-lived, from like August 2007 to like December 2007. I was out of there. I literally pulled my children out of school. I pulled my children out of the church, everything. I started homeschooling my kids, and I decided I'm not going to any other churches. That's it. But when I came to First Church, as a result of that, then my mom came, my best friend joined, my daughter, like my daughter-in-law. So like a lot of people came over as a result of that, you know, me joining that church, and they really, you know, were able to embrace that Pastor Jennings was actually teaching the truth. But there was a lot of fight in that. Like, so much went on behind the scenes. I'm so grateful to God that he allowed me to be, I never would have thought, like a church secretary. So I can see, wow, these people are really doing what this man is saying they're doing. They're like writing their sermons. They're like scheduling, oh, give me this one. Give me this one. No, you had this one. Were you teaching this last week? And then they were just like really fighting over who's raising the offering and who's going to get whatever out of the offering. And I was able to see all of that. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like this is crazy. Like I really couldn't believe myself. I couldn't believe all the things that went on in there, like whipping children with extension cords during class. You know, like they were doing so many things that it was just like impossible to stay. Like,
and so from the time, you know, you and all your family, 'cause that's a blessing if everybody comes in, right? Because usually you have
yes,
some, it's just them and the
Mhm.
others aren't staying. So it's a blessing, your husband, the children, your mom, your best friend, and this and that. Maybe the guy
yes,
in the corner at the McDonald's too. Who knows? You know,
yes,
it's a blessing
yes.
when y'all could come in. Can you, you know, please let us know from the time you've came in all the way to now, because you as a parent, how is the growth you've seen in yourself, your children, and your husband from, because you obviously were in falsehood. So
Yes.
there was clearly no growth. And the thing is, what a lot of people say is, well, every church has something, and now you go to a different church, you experience that. So right then
Mhm.
and after experiencing that, it's someone's just gonna say, nah, bro, I can't. After all this and that, but now, thank God you made that decision. You know, all right, and thank God for your sister, really,
Yes,
because that
yes,
that extra push. Because here's the thing, I think your sister probably knew there was a potential in you, right? Because if you were really like hard headed and did not want it, I don't think she would have bothered you so much.
right.
I think she knew there's something you're looking for. I got it. Just
Yes,
come. You're looking for
yes,
this. I got it. Just come. And
yes.
but from the growth you've seen from since you got into truth, how has it been to see your kids, your husband, and yourself grow in this teaching?
Brother, I cannot tell you how amazing it's been. My husband and our marriage period would not be on task if it was not for switching over to holiness. I can tell you right now, we would not have made it. We were way different people. While I was in those churches, I was still in the world very much so. I was still drinking, I was still hanging out, I was still smoking, he was still smoking. We met each other in like, you know, that was like our world. So we definitely would never have laid those things down. We would have kept going like that. And we would have still been crazy. We were some crazy people to be joining up. Like,
Sometimes crazy is good, you know. Sometimes.
we were crazy. Trust me. Pastor Jennings and the teachings of holiness has grown us tremendously. Myself, my husband, we're both Holy Ghost filled. My children, I have 6 sons and 1 daughter-in-law. Out of those 7 children, only 2 are not Holy Ghost filled. My children, they literally, you know, they strive, they're young people, they're young adults. They strive to keep God first. That's the best growth that's the best thing any mother could have. Out of anything I ever wanted to give my kids, the only reason I ever even tried to find God in the first place was for my children. They've been through so much in their life. You know, I wanted them to grow. So when everything started, you know, we were still in the world. We didn't want to take off things. Of course, you know, vanity. You didn't want to look a certain way. You certainly didn't want to act a certain way. You wanted to be around your family that was partying, smoking, and drinking and falling all over each other. And that's the life we lived. we don't live that life anymore. You know, we have completely separated ourselves from anything like that. Not to say that we're not, you know, able to be cordial with people outside of First Church. Of course we are. But if you're going to be throwing a club party, or if you're going to be having like worldly things going on in your home, if we know that you're like that, we're not affiliating ourselves with it. You know, even with my children, it's kind of like, you know, they have a lot of cousins that are out drug dealing and smoking and doing things like that. For the most part, they make pretty decent decisions. So getting that in them early was very instrumental, very instrumental. It helped to shine a light on some dark things that were going on with my kids that would never have gone, that stuff would have never came to surface if it had not been for holiness and God sending Pastor Jennings into my children's lives to help bring that out. His preaching really convicts you so much so that if you're doing some things that have no business taking place, if you're not living right, it's going to bring something up in you. And because of that, you know, things were happening to my kids I had no idea about. And because of those teachings, that hard stuff, that when he says some things, you're like, ooh, you're like, oh my gosh, you know, that's a bit much. That's a big visual. That brought out some abuses and things like that had taken place with my children, shed light on it. My kids are still in tune with God. One of my sons, a very personal thing, but it's good for people to know that. One of my sons was dealing with, right after he either got filled with the Holy Ghost or got filled with Satan, one or the other, who knows, but because of those teachings, my ear was open and he had started to like speak in an unknown tongue. So, you know, I'm like standing there and I'm like, okay, but this is not right, because he started to do very, very suspicious, crazy things in this other tongue. And I like was sliding away from him with my phone in my hand and calling Pastor Jennings like, hello. And I let Pastor Jennings hear what was going on in the background. And he was like, oh no, that's not the Holy Ghost. I need to see him. Because the spirit had jumped on my son. That guy, my son, he was, you know, he was suicidal because of that. He didn't want to be here, because here it is, he was tearing for the Holy Ghost. Something bad happened to him in the process. But Pastor Jennings, you know, I took my son to see him, and he was able to get him right back on track with no problem. He was able to, we sat in there as a family, and, you know, it was just so crazy. It's surreal. If you didn't go through it, then, and I had it recorded for a long time. I don't think it was meant for me to keep that recording, because I was just like, I am so like, I would not have believed it if I didn't hear it with my own ears. And I was like, I'm going to have this recording because I'm going to play it for Pastor Jennings. He was over there looking like, I don't even need to hear it. I want to hear it. I heard enough through the phone. I'm good. I know what needs to be done. And he helped my son. And now that son, he told him, go back to the drawing board. You know, he prayed over him. He asked, you know, that spirit or whatever spirits was in him to take leave. And after that, my son, you know, he was able to get himself together with some time and, you know, get filled with the correct spirit, the spirit of the Holy Ghost, because he definitely had the spirit of error on him. So many things. I can't even tell it all, but just so many things have come, you know, so much as good has come out of, you know, being in the right thing. So much good has come out of it. Even my friend, you know, she joined the church and things have happened. And I was able to be like, look, go see Pastor Jennings. You know, you want to see him. It's wonderful to have a man of God, a true man of God. You know, when I was in the false church, they were fake healing coming over. I had like a exposed nerve, and the guy was over there with his hand shaking my jaw as if I'm not in enough pain, shaking my jaw, going, yes, heal, you know. And I'm like, if you don't get, I really felt like I'm about to slap this man right now. He is up here, you know, I'm in enough pain, and he's healed with this fake healing situation going on. He was making it so much worse. So I was just like, Lord, thank God for a man who actually has, you know, a connection with the Lord, you know, actually has the word of truth, that, you know, we can really count on him. Even if we can't directly sit with him and talk with him, it just comes right over the pulpit. Like, you can't ask for anything better than that.
Well, that's wonderful. And as you say, that's a parent, especially a mother, to see her kids striving to please God and to keep him first. Like
Mm-hmm.
what else would a mother want to ask for? And the crazy thing is there is a lot of mothers who truly think and believe that their kid is actually seeking God the right way. You get what I mean? So that's why when they hear something odd happening, they say, "But this can't be. My son did that. My daughter does that." But they're supposed to be serving and please. You get what I mean? So, but the fact that it's actual truth, which is the big difference. Because a lot of
Yes.
watching could have been like, "Oh, my kid, they serve God too," but it's the right way.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And now what happens when you get, because something, I believe it was Sister Janelle that was saying, it's when a kid, or it could be, one who was a kid, whatever the case is, but those who are going to go to college or uni, it's going to see, you're going to see what's really in you, how much of truth is in you. You understand? And that's why that's a fear for a parent, where you believe you're raising your kid the right way and you're not. Daughter goes to school or university, college, comes back, starts vomiting, starts having sickness, so starts having night sickness, and she's telling mom, "Oh, I think it's a flu. This flu's been going on for how long? You've been like, oh, baby, how come you've been gaining weight? Oh, I think this flu makes us gain weight." You get what I mean? And come to find out, she's just pregnant. You understand? So that's why it's so important for the parents to do their job. Because a lot of me growing up, all you ever heard, honor mother and father, but it's obviously we have to have something to honor.
Exactly.
I never even knew until First Church, where train up a child into. I never even knew that was in the scriptures. How come mom and dad wouldn't say that, huh? Hey.
And brother, I have a great testimony. You just reminded me about my son Tashawn. You just reminded me of him. A year ago on the 5th of October, even like I believe it was that Sunday before. This is crazy because last year my son had 2 incidents in which threatened his life. One, he was laying asleep in the back of my nephew's car, and the car was shot all up. And they all were in the car, but my son was the only one shot. He was shot 3 times, had 5 wounds. He literally just had that bullet, the last bullet removed out of, well, one bullet that got stuck in his back. They weren't going to take it out, but it moved so that he was able to get it out. Those bullets didn't hit anything vital. My son lived to walk around and talk and tell that story. Some months later, he was in a fatal car crash where he was the only survivor. And the girl who he was considering his significant other or fiance, she died. She was the driver. And her friend, her best friend, died, leaving 2 young children behind. And my son was the only survivor. Now, that Sunday before, if I'm remembering correctly, if it wasn't that Sunday before, it was probably that Thursday. On my way home from church, there was something I had been pressing on and praying to the Lord about that I wanted so bad. And I felt as though the devil entered into my thoughts and was like, what would you sacrifice? Would you give one of your sons or your husband? Somebody would have to go so you could have this. So immediately I'm like clutching my steering wheel, driving home, crying my eyes out, begging the Lord, please don't take them. I didn't know which one, but I felt like I had an idea of which of the, the 3 that I felt like, okay, these are probably the 3 that could be in danger, my husband or one of these 2 sons. And that Monday, I was at work. My son was supposed to, that's one thing about my kids. If I call them, they call me back. Like if I text them, they text me back. So I don't get that. Like if we didn't have that rapport, I would not have known something was wrong. So I'm like begging for, please don't take my son. And I'm in my job and I don't get this call back. And I'm like, I'm off from work. So I immediately start calling around telling people my husband's all the way in Alabama. I'm here in Delaware. And I'm like, find my son, please. Like, find him. And my husband's like, what's the big deal? I'm like, well, he didn't call me back. I need you to find him. I'm telling his brother, find your brother. Like, I put all my boys on it. Like, somebody get in touch with him. Well, he was in the University of Maryland. That's why we couldn't reach him. And the cops couldn't give me any information but to say that he was choppered there. and I just needed to get there. They wouldn't tell me that someone died. I had to take that drive all the way there, trying to wonder if it's my son that's dead. Am I coming there to identify his body? What's going on? And he should have been gone. The car was severed. And because he had his seatbelt on, it cut him up pretty good, and he had brain damage and all that. But he's walking, talking, telling that story right now. And he was the only survivor. I just knew, like, that night before, that I had to pray and beg for him to still be here, because that accident, you know, the fact that he would perish in a car crash, that came to me so vividly. And I was just like, please, God, don't take him. Please, please, please. But Pastor Jennings, you know, he always teaches, like, you can go to God. You can ask God for mercy. You may be even able to, beg him for more time, things like that. It was twice in 1 year, within a few months, that I almost lost my son. That was one of my biggest testimonies. The fact that I knew how to pray, I knew how to call on the Lord to get that boy to still be here. Even when the bullets hit him in the car, I had a peace at that time. You know, I was not all over the place, screaming, crying, and hollering. I was 900 miles away from my son, but I was calm. I was just like, just let me know that he's okay. And I was okay with that. You know, I was just like, all right, he's going to be fine. I need to get there, but he's going to live. And I came the next day. But with that car crash, when I got there, the only thing I could think about, once I was able to put my eyeballs on my son and see that he was alive, that they had him in a coma, okay, fine. But when I came downstairs, the first thing I thought about was his female friend, the girl he, introduced to me. Oh, this is going to be my wife. She was gone. And just a few weeks prior, 2 weeks prior, she was asking, why do I have to cover? Why do I have to do this? Why? I mean, why? She was asking me, and I sat down with her. And
so wait, we start on that. So your son that survives, fiance. So
Yeah.
2 weeks before this, what was she saying?
She was asking me, we were all over the house, sitting, and she was asking me, why does she have to cover? Why does she have to dress modest? And the beautiful part about that was the house was full of people, young people. So they all heard this conversation. This was an open conversation. There were 2 young ladies there that wanted to marry 2 of my sons. They were there. And my daughter-in-law, because she oversees everything. She feels like those are her little brothers, and you ain't getting in if you don't get by her. So we're all there. And the girl is like, why? Why do I have to do this stuff? And we're like, when God, and I kept saying to her, when God calls you, you're going to answer. You got to give account. You got to make sure that nothing is more important than God. I mean, a simple head covering, that's not more important than you serving God. I mean, you can take it off when you get in the house if you feel that important about it, but that's not more important. So I'm breaking down to her like, look, and I just kept saying, when God calls you, and it's just so crazy that only like a week, maybe a week and a half or so went by, and he called her. She was out of here. So when I was able to calm down after I saw my son, my daughter was there, and I just looked at her, and another young lady that was there for that conversation, and my son, and I'm just like, I literally just said to this young lady, when God calls you, you're going to answer. And if he called you into holiness, you just surrender the best way you can. Like, nobody is saying dive all in, but one thing at a time, one step at a time, pray about it. Don't just openly reject it. She was having such a problem. I even gave her, she asked for one of my skirts. I gave her one of my skirts, and she never got to wear that skirt. Like, she was dead. Within maybe 2 weeks later, she was gone. My son is still here, but she's gone.
No, that's wow, and wow. That's wow. I don't even know what to say to that. The fact that you were talking to her 2 weeks prior, because you know how many people are in that predicament?
Yeah.
How many people say that?
Yeah.
How many? Oh my, that's a cult for me. Yeah, y'all women just like that, just like grandmas. That ain't for me.
Yeah.
You're telling her this, boom, bap, 2 weeks later, God, that's it.
Yeah, I was trying so hard to get her to understand that I'm not, because I don't pull people. If you ask me, I'll talk to you about it. Even me and my best friend, we've gotten into it, but it was never because I'm like, holiness is the way. Like, we laugh about it now. I would just be talking about how great I'm feeling, how I'm doing in life, and I'm striving, and it would just kind of unnerve something in her because that's conviction, So later on, we were able to laugh about it. But this young lady, she came to me, and she just wanting to know why. And I'm like, I just kept saying, when God calls you. So of course, hearing that she was no longer here, that's the only thing I could reflect back on. I was just like, oh my God, I literally just said this to this young lady, like, when God calls you, when he calls you, you're going to go, and if you didn't live your life pleasing to him, it's not going to be a good thing for you. Now, of course, I'm not saying anyone went anywhere. I don't have, a heaven or a hell to put anyone in. It just happened to be a situation of mine that I was just like, wow. I really just stood there. I couldn't say anything. And her parents were relying on me to tell them whether she was alive or dead. Because the cops wouldn't tell them anything. So they only had a line to me. And they were just like, can you tell me what's going on? Is it Renee? Is she? And I'm just like, I don't want to be the one. Like, I didn't hardly know whether it was her or my child. I was still trying to figure it out because they weren't going to tell you over the phone. It blew my mind that not only did I get an opportunity to beg for my son's life, and he made it. He was the only survivor. But then the one young lady that I'm sitting here trying to tell her, like, this is why, she didn't make it. So that was just heavy on me. It was heavy on me. And to this day, it's still heavy on my son, when he's trying to keep himself on a straight path and all that he feels like he's lost, he's reflecting back to that. At the end of the day, regardless to how you're mourning, regardless to how you're feeling, your personal feelings and everything, God still is owed everything.
That's right.
So there is no excuse, and I keep that in front of my children without being, hard about it. If they come to me, I have that soft answer, praise God. I ask God, and I'm just like, I understand you going through. I really do. And I'm not saying that you don't got to take your time and stuff like that, but understand that time is not yours to give or take. So if God calls you, each of us has to give account.
No, that's another blessing too. If your kid comes to you and opens up and say, hey, mom, I'm struggling with this. I'm dealing with this. Because so many parents don't even get that at all. They're always doing it to somebody outside. And that person on the outside is giving terrible advice. Just terrible advice. And now what happens? They get themselves in a predicament. The parents wondering how. They know they could have helped them. Why didn't they come to, and so much things goes along. But no, that right there is just wow, and for sure, got to keep your son in prayer for that, because that's not a easy thing to deal with, when especially someone who you loved, someone that you were close to, and knowingly that you were in an accident. And bringing it up, there was actually a boy I knew, I grew up with. We were on the same soccer team. If he's watching this, his name is Anu. Anu Bakinwa. If you're watching this thing, you better come, Nigeria, come. You better repent and come. But no, I think I was at Nationals for soccer at the time. And I get I see like this when you see GoFundMe over here, it's usually nothing, and you see pictures, you see something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I've known him since, I think it was maybe U12. So probably since 12, 13, I've known this guy. We grew up playing soccer and stuff. We're on the same team. He had my back. Very, very, sincere guy. Never kind of looked for trouble or anything. He was his own character. And then I see the GoFundMe. I'm like, yo, what's going on? They say, they got into an accident. I said, what happened? They said, no. And what happened was the driver survived, but the passenger died. And he was, and then, and he was in the back. I'm like, oh, no, because he's not known for getting himself in this realm. And they said, we were looking on Snapchat, he was looking like he was like gone, mess. I said, no? But the one, no, I know that wasn't the case. You understand? Like he wasn't like those disrespectful guys. It was just that funny guy. It was pure comedy when we were around each other, right? And so now what happened? I mess up. I reach out to him and I go see him myself. And I'm in truth. And then he explains to me, he says, man, I was asleep in the back of the car. I said, deep in the back of the car. And then he's like, when he happened, he had to learn how to eat again. He had to learn how to walk again. And I told him, man, the only reason why you're alive is because God gave you another opportunity.
Right. Yes.
That's the only. I just told him plain. You're supposed to die. You were literally supposed to be dead. And you know, the driver, because the driver is kind of dealing with, because what happened, the accident, we're Canadians. The accident happened in the States.
Oh, wow.
So now do you know with insurance and left and right, that, so now, and plus, apparently it was drunk driving on top of it.
Oh, no.
So now the thing is, it's kind of messed up for him, but the only one that came out of it, of course, is probably medical bills and whatnot. But to say that, honestly, God literally allowed you to survive that.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? So now if you're watching this, Anu, I'm telling you, this teaching right here, yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's hard. But I'm telling you right now, if you want to truly get right, if there's a way you really want to, oh God, if there's a way you really want to give back to him, you want to be learning from him and learning him the right way. It's the only thing. Because here, your testimony what happened, and look with him, like I told you, you were supposed to die. You're supposed to be dead. The fact that you were asleep as well, you would have never woken up. And now that brings fear on the mom, fear on the dad, because I know his dad. You understand? His dad, they were not like that to raise them, of the, drinking and stuff. I don't know what happened in terms of, I don't know what occurred and stuff, because life happens out there.
Yeah.
Life happens. And now that's what I'm talking about. Parent, they get that shock. So to hear you saying this, that's what I'm saying. Anu, if you're watching, I'm telling you, this is not a joke. Don't play around with it. The worst thing somebody can do, and PJ says this a lot of times, the person ends up on the hospital bed. I'm talking about close to just death. Tell God, God, if you let me survive this, God.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
I'm serving you, Lord. God, I'm serving you no matter what, Lord. No matter what. Just heal me up, Lord. God heals them up.
Yeah.
They get out. Now, it's not like as if they jump. Some people, they jump right back to what they were in right away. But then there's some people, it's slowly, it's kind of slowly. You hear this, now you're promoting this. You're promoting the things that contradict God's word. But didn't you tell him you're going to serve him no matter what? But now that's when the devil trickles in. But that's your boy. That's your friend. Come on, man. You're really going to serve God and let your friend go? Come on, bro. Listen, you get what I mean? So it's because accidents, I believe, is one of the worst ways someone could die. It's one of the worst ways someone could die. Knowing you go through that, especially if you're kind of like still breathing a few moments before you die.
Oh my gosh.
That's scary. That's scary, So it's really, in terms of your son and what he go through, because he was Anu was in a coma as well, I believe. He was in a coma as well. And to think of it, that's why it's like we can't take for granted a kid just coming home safe and sound.
You cannot.
You can't. And
I'm working every second, and I keep that on my son. When I see, because when I moved to Alabama, that's when all this stuff took place. My son was 18 and he felt like, I don't want to go with you guys. And I'm grown. Well, we run a very tight knit, family. So we are like fighting him, not trying to leave him here. And right then I told him, I said, you're an innocent bystander. You're going to be the one that gets shot up, because he was taking around with certain people. I'm like, watch, it's always the innocent party. He was asleep in the back of that car. Not one other person got shot, and there were 2 others in the car. And he was the only one to get any bullets. So it was just like, he came out, and, that's like bragging rights for some young people trying to go in a direction. And my son was trying to look cool because they felt isolated, that we homeschooled them. We kept them away from, riffraffs. If you weren't trying to live right, or you were out in the streets in any kind of way, I didn't allow my kids to come over and, do things. So they were just kind of like this one. The rest of my children, they have the attitude like, I could take you or leave you, don't care. But that particular kid, that one son, he always feels like, well, you pulled us away from everybody, and I want to be around my cousins and this and that. And I'm like, no. So he came out acting like he was He-Man, like, oh, I got shot, this and that. And my husband and I and his auntie that pulled me in the whole this, and his uncle. We're on his butt. Like, I don't know what you think this is, but that's God's grace and mercy. Like, and of course, the Lord stepped in and showed him once again. And I'm, so do you still want to play with God? Like, I don't think you want to be. I understand you young people are under a great deal of peer pressure and you want to look a certain way, but there is more to life than that. You know, I've been that mom, even though in holiness, I let my boys work that out within themselves as far as if they try to grow some hair out or something. You know, thank God for balance. My husband would say, let him come into it on his own. Now, of course, you're not going to be running around here with hair hanging down to your shoulders because we have to do something about that. But if they wanted like a little fro or something, we would tolerate it for a minute and, you know, see, we would still talk to them, see if they going to bust a corner or not. And if not, it's kind of like, well, you know, it's kind of our house, our rules, you're getting that thing cut down, you know, but we would try to let them work into it. If they wanted to wear certain types of clothes, we would say, okay, fine, we'll suffer this for this little bit of time, but you need to work that out. Scripture says, you know, holiness is about this and that. And for the most part, everybody would always come around to, okay, this is not right. This particular one, it was always like, well, Mom, well, my head is big. I need this fro and this curly hair because, you know, and it was just like, Sean, you know, when I left, I had family members trying to pull my kid down. You know, they would do things and be so happy that he would be hanging out with, you know, certain family members and stuff like that. If they would see him doing something, if when we left, someone sent me a picture of one of my sons or that particular son, and he had like braids or twist or something. I don't know what it was, but they were hanging down, and I was like, who in the world is that? So of course I come to town and I'm like, I know that's coming off. And so he wouldn't take his hood off. He wouldn't show me what was under there, and he got it off eventually. But I was just kind of like, you're right. You are grown. You're 19 or what have you. You need to make better decisions. I don't know why you want to look like everything worldly. I don't know why you want to go in that direction. There's nothing there for you. And has God not shown you that he will take you right out of here? Just like many others that you around here mourning and saying RIP and all this stuff. You know, he never got into the streets, but he wanted to look a certain way because it would attract company and stuff like that. Just like, how many times God will tap you? And if it was not for your praying parents and they're praying, you know, aunties and friends and all these people that are praying for you all around the world that don't even know you, just because I put on my Facebook, please pray for my son. If it wasn't for all these people covering you in prayer, you would not be here. You would not be here. My son had to learn to walk over again. He had to learn how to eat over again. He still has a brain injury that messes with him every single day that he doesn't want to have. You know, he wants to pretend it's not happening, but you can very much see it if you really know him that he's changed, you know, all the time. I'm just holding that right in front of him every chance I get because I'm not trying to bury him. And I tell him that all the time. I'm not trying to bury you just because you want to look cool. It's a look. But I up in that street, you know, I grew up there, so I already know you're not ready for it. It's not like I raised you over here because I deprived you of something good. There's nothing good about it, you know. So God is good. You know, he didn't allow me to turn out the way so many others did. He didn't allow me to go the way of even my own parents. My own parents were hard-headed. Both of them went down in the water at First Church. And they're striving, I guess. You know, I don't know. I don't try to get too close to anybody or push anybody in this direction or that direction. But they each came. They each went down in the water. And I guess they're trying to get it together. But I'm not waiting on anybody. You know, just because they don't want to do it doesn't mean I'm going to go that way. I let it be known. That's your walk. I'm not going that way. But you can do that if you want to. That's your business.
You have to want it for themselves, you know?
Yes.
No, I mean, like within boys, because the growing up, a lot of times, you know, especially certain cultures, like I know within Africans, when it's a son that they know is about to get born, oh, this is Prince, and you know, they have to really nurture. You know, you have some cultures where they kind of let things slide for the boys, and then the girl, it's very strict. You understand? Very, very strict with that girl because you know, a lot of times, and I hope there's young ones watching this. it's when your parents are telling you something, especially in terms of like Sister Tania, you have to stop thinking they're your enemy. Because right now they have the picture in their head, but it's the wrong enemy you're picturing. You're thinking it's the ones from the streets. That's who's with you. That's who's about you. But then, oh, mom is just an enemy. And that's kind of like what you're trained to do, especially if you're from the streets, like, or whatever whoever you hang out with. I don't listen to my mom. I don't listen to my dad. Yo, the other night, my dad's trying to tell me this and that. Yo, I didn't even do nothing. Like, who this man think he is? And they're laughing about it. Like, it's something cool. Yeah. Like, that's something fresh. And then you get yourself in a predicament. Who you calling? Mommy.
Mom and dad.
Daddy. Yes. I should have listened.
For real.
Why do you always wait until it's too late? Why? I don't understand.
This kid is like a brick, you know? Funny, like he is the one I said out of 6, I had to expect at least one.
Exactly.
One. And he tells me yesterday on my way back from his appointment to see how his brain's doing. He's like we're cracking up in the car because he was talking about times he got thrown out of school. Was saying he was over there begging the principal, please try that. Try that. Don't call my mom. And he said they finally were like, I'm sorry, your dad's not answering. I gotta call your mom. Exactly. Died in there. He was like, you don't know what she's going to do to me. I was a very nurturing mother. My boys still are all over me. People are always shocked that they still are hugging mommy. You know, they still want to be on their mommy. However, I never mind opening up the can at all. If you got out of line, it's going to go down. And I'm sorry, but that's how it's going. I'm not going to spare any expenses because I'm not going to have the streets take you. And then I get to live with that. You know, I get to live with that. And now on top of holiness, it's like, not only do you have to live with the grief of having lost your kid, you know, but now you got to deal with, okay, where did they go? You know what I'm saying? Like, do they even have a chance at at eternal life the right way? That's important to me. Like, a lot of parents don't think about that. But when I do get an opportunity to talk to parents, I always tell them, I'm like, I don't know about you, but I love my kids deeply. I love them enough that I want them to have heaven as well. You know, this is not anything for me. This is all, you know, this is here now, but it's going to pass away. What about later on? I won't know that their soul didn't make it. However, consciously now, that's a bit much for me to fathom that they couldn't make it. If I'm here and they pass away and I'm like, oh my God, they don't have a chance at eternity with God. That's too much for me. I can't.
No, it is tough, you know, and that's what, like, for me, I thank God that I wasn't the heart. Like, I was, you know, a troublemaker when I was in elementary, but class clown type of troublemaker, you know, but when, you know, my dad or my mom will specifically tell me, don't hang out with this, or don't even do that. I've been offered stuff. I've been offered to do coke. I've been offered to smoke weed. I've been offered to drink. It was never for me, because I was an athlete as well. You know, which helped out, because I don't like to, you know, I wouldn't want to kill my body and being an athlete. But then, you know, growing up, you realize athletes is just a regular thing, especially weed, right? It's something. I remember I was offered a pound of weed in college in California just because I was funny. Just because I was in like a acting class, and you know me, I like to make people laugh and this and that, laughing, cracking up. And this guy offered, you're funny, fam. I'm like, yo, I gotta give you a pound of weed. I said, no, I don't smoke. Like, you don't smoke at all?
That's really.
I've never smoked before in my life.
That's really.
Where are you from? And what the city I'm from, Brampton, Ontario, we in the building. But the city I'm from, like, they smoke weed a lot. It's not hard to find weed, right? And so it's like, it's within. And for me, it was always remembering where I'm from. I always stuck, because I don't want that type of disappointment in my mom or dad's face. You know, knowing like, yo, we tried, we're doing what we can, and here it is. All it is, you're coming home high, you're coming home drunk, you know, and it's really to the point where it's when PJ said obedience to your parents is practice. It's training to obey God.
Yes.
And so it's of course, I'd be grateful to know more about holiness at an earlier age.
Right.
Because there's certain things I could have avoided and whatnot. But in terms of that aspect where, it's the wrong, and me, I was the type where I knew left and right, but I knew who I was. You know what I mean? I'm not getting out the house, putting my pants low, because my parents are Haitian parents. They don't play with that at all. They don't play with that thing at all. So I'm not taking no risk now. And it's at the same time, because my dad never low ride. So there was that example I had. Okay, I understand. You get what I mean? So it wasn't where he's telling me not to do it and he's doing it himself. Right. My mom, anybody knows she's the craziest person I know. She is crazy.
I think my kids think the same about me.
Oh, my mom is crazy. If she ever seen me with my mom, if she ever look, this is how Haitian parents are. I remember there was one, he pierced his ears. It was a family friend. He said the next day his stuff was outside of the house with garbage bags. His mom's not taking no boy in the house with earrings. They do not, because they come to the country, they're already dealing with a lot of mess left and right. They're not ready to deal with that. You want to do these type of things, live by yourself. Don't come and do it in my house. And that's where some parents, they're scared. I don't want to lose my kid, But look, if you know,
will kick one up behind. If I see the pants, like I don't play that. And for the most part, my kids don't do it. There's that one. Every now and again, you might catch them looking like, so do you need a bell? Or something, because what's up? Oh, sorry, mom. They'll apologize. He'll and he'll get himself together, but he's the one I always say, like,
there's always that one. There's always that one. And the thing is, as a parent, as long as you can say, like I tell parents all the time, you can't be like 17, your kid got kicked out 16. If the kid didn't want to respect the rules, if they wanted to be big man or big woman, you have all rights to kick them out. Well, within the law, you're not allowed to kick a kid out at an 18-year-old. Where's the law that says kid can be big man in mom and dad's house? My days, these people will be ready to try to say this about mom and dad, but when it's time for them to pay the bills for that kid, they're nowhere to be found. So I say this over to all parents. Listen, if that kid wants to do big man, and if you could say deep down and you could honestly tell God, I did everything I could, but the kid wants to go in their own way, you can't be upset as a parent. You can't. You can't be upset as a parent. It's and for the kids, yes, as a young brother, I'm telling you all this. You don't listen. If let's say when I was 20, because I think 19 I was in Spain for soccer and whatnot. Let's say because I was still at home at 20 years old. Let's say I'm 20 years old. First of all, 18. I never said, oh, I'm 18 now, I'm doing whatever I want. It wasn't the case. If my dad and my mom said, listen, Mr. 18-year-old, but I was like in college in Cali, I'm just giving this as an example. If they said I got to be home by 8:30 p.m., with exception if I'm at work, I have to be home at 8:30 p.m. Well, Sundin, I just don't agree with it. I want to be home later. If that's the case, then what you do, you double up the shifts you get your own stuff, get your own apartment or condo, and pay your own bills.
See you later.
That's it.
I've been told so many times how hard I was on my kids, and I never once buckled because because they were all boys, and I just to give them over. But I never cared. I remember my two youngest, that one that was in the accident and the baby, they got the bright idea that they were going, it was all the older one though. It was one in the accident. That's the trouble kid, right? So we're at church, first church. And he gets the bright idea, something we told him he couldn't do. He was late coming back from the store. We were heading to convocation, and he was maybe like a few minutes late. And I basically told him, like, if you can't obey the rules, then we're going to have to see you about something. You're going to get it. It's going to be a can waiting for you, especially if I'm late for church or whatever. So he's in church. He's not paying attention to the sermon. No, he's over there plotting an escape. He's thinking in his mind, automatically, he's going to get it. Because I'm like, I'm going to call your uncles. I'm calling your aunt. It's going to be a throwdown up in here. We all about to get you. And he gets this bright idea. It's like 30 below zero. They're going to run away. So I'm like, oh, okay. So my husband's like, no, let them do what they feel like they're going to do. They tough. Let them go out there. So my baby boy said, he kept saying, look, man, I want to go home. It's freezing out there. It's like 30 below. It's 30 degrees or less out there. It's going into freezing. So we let them go ahead. They were gone overnight. They didn't come back in. And when we found them walking down the street, I was like, oh, I got something for you. Get in the car. I said, I'm going to take you to my mama's house because, see, we out here in the suburbs. These people going to be done call the police the way I'm going you behind. I'm taking you to the suburbs. I'm going to open up this can of whoop, and you're going to know not to play with me again. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, you should have never, first of all, you don't even get to the door. First of all, you're in church. You're not thinking about the word that's down. You plotting your escape to go run away and do all these things. I'm calling my family. Yeah, I found them. Everybody's like, let me know if I'm getting in on the butt whooping. Because, see, in our family,
everybody does it. Oh, I know. I understand. Everybody got to get a piece.
So I'm like, Mom, I'm heading to your house. I found these two little rascals, and I'm about to bring them there, and I'm about to open up on them because they're not going to be playing with me like this. Like, it's 6 of y'all. I refuse. I always thought to myself, like, God forbid the Lord would take my husband. I would be the mother here with 6 sons. Can't have you run over top of me. It's just not happening. And I'm little. I'm only 5'2". You know, y'all are standing all over top of me all crazy. You're going to know just how crazy I am. So I feel you when you say your mom's crazy. My kids say that to me, and I would be asking them, so do you want nice mommy or do you want crazy mommy? Which mommy you want today? Like, and they would like, we want nice mommy. Like, you know, people try to make me feel bad, but I don't. You know, Pastor Jennings, he makes it to where, you know, you understand. Of course, you don't want to abuse your kids. You always want to have an open rapport. My boys talk to me about any and everything. Even my daughter-in-law does. We have great relationship. We talk about any and everything they want to talk about. Nothing's off the table. And I love them. I love them up a lot. However, you will respect me. That's the only stipulation I have. You know, we want to respect each other, or we each problem.
And the blessing is to have a teaching to back it up, because teaching in falsehood is so weak. It just makes the parents so weak. You're the kid, you call, listen, I was not even allowed to answer to my dad. Yeah. Like, you know, YEA? Who you telling yeah? Am I your friend from school? Huh? Who are you telling you? I'm just there like, oh, sorry. It's yes. Listen, if I'm going, I wouldn't slam the door, but my dad didn't even want to hear the close sound. Listen, you're going to do it inside, because he's just trying to, like, you know, he's not trying to get any type of little disrespect at all, because respect is heavy.
I don't blame him.
In the Haitian culture, very heavy. So if it's like they told me, he doesn't even want to hear the door. Like, I have to do it silently, because he knows I don't want to do it. But after I do that, I'm in the room, punch in the air.
Don't let me see it. Don't let me happen it.
Exactly. And as soon as they call me, yes. And you know, you go there composed and everything. So I'm truly grateful that a teaching, and that, you know, the apostle, his teaching, or the teaching, the revelations he's getting from God is making men. Because I think once the man is weak in that house, you're up for chaos. Because if there's no fear of the dad, and I'm talking about a natural fear.
Yes.
The kids today, they're reckless, man, reckless. Yes. Mom and dad call them, what do you want? And then, honeys, I keep telling you, stop talking to me like that, okay? How many times do I have to tell you? You just don't say that, all right? It's me, listen, I didn't even dream trying to answer my parents like that. It's not even a dream. And now, to the point where I'm in a teaching where it's backed up, now it's making the men go home and take charge of their house, making the women say, listen, sisters, yes, you're the wife. Yes, you know, you soft-spoken, but you still got to instill in your son, you got to be a man.
You got to.
You know, so I'm grateful for this teaching for that. I'm truly
so
grateful.
grateful.
That's the thing. And as a question I asked before we close, you know, and this is a wonderful, wonderful podcast conversation. I like it when I love it when it dwells like this, where, you know, people are seeing where it's not all always happy land. You're going to have the struggles. You're going to have the, you know, but when you have a teaching to help you, to direct you, to guide you, to you know, shift you in the straight way and how to do things, that's where now you're not fighting for answers. Because a lot of you out there, you don't have it. And then you're stubborn listening to Bishop Lucifer tell your kid, just smile and tell him don't do it again. What is that?
No.
And you know what's crazy? Because my mom had a daycare. Some kids that you know they'll be disrespectful with mom and dad, they will not even try that over here.
That's the same here.
Because they know.
Same here. Yep.
We can't try it. We can't try that. No. She's crazy.
I would watch those kids and their kids would be awful to them.
Mm-hmm.
But they knew not to come for me because I did not care. My rule has always been, you know, I love babies. I love kids, period. I will love them up. If they come out of line, if they're yours or mine, it's best you don't bring them around me because they're going to get disciplined. I don't care if they just hold their arms out for 20 minutes or they getting a spanking or something. They're going to understand. Don't play with Aunt Tania. Don't play with Miss Tania. Most kids that meet me call me auntie or mom, you know, whether they're my relation or not, but they know, don't mess with that one. Because that little thing here, she not playing that. I don't play that. No. Nope.
No, and that's just how it has to be. And the kid, that goes to show, it tells you the kid understands what respect is because they know I blabby with mom and dad, but as soon as I come and it's Aunt Tanya or Miss Tanya, she don't joke. They know it. So parents telling me, oh no, they're just young. This is just that's don't tell me that because it's happening to you. How come it's not happening to her? You know, so and we never had difficulties with disrespect. I'd help my mom out with the daycare and stuff. There was never, and there's one kid because being in truth, well, they didn't really know much of it, but they seen a difference. And he said, I'll never forget. He's like, oh, Sundin, like, because now it's before when they would come, I'll just come, you know, get your food, we'll just, you know, play, mom and dad come pick you up. But now it's like, I'm the one telling them, listen, y'all are, and you have to be so specific with these kids. If you tell them, because my mom, I think I was at work and so they're already gone. And what happened the next day he came back, they're saying, oh, he had homework and stuff. My mom said she asked him and he tells him, I don't have homework. But then he goes, I think he tells my mom, well, you never asked me if I had homework in my backpack. You just asked me if I did. You see how smart they get? So I tell him, I said, listen, you're going to go get your homework. I don't care if it's in a backpack. I don't care if it's at the school. I don't care if you left it at the bus stop. You're going to go get the homework. You have 1 minute to get on the table and start doing it right now. I didn't get no arguments, no, you know, and he was sitting there as he's doing it. And I don't let them get away with that. Come, you're not doing that. You're going to come back. Let's do this again. Go get the, yes, you better go over there. You're not finna do no, none of that either. He'd come on. He's like, Sundin, before it was just, you know, fun, but now it's like, you're fun, but you're strict now too. You're strict. And then there was one girl, because everyone knows I love kids as well. One of the business I have, the niche is kids. And when it comes to like little girls, they have a soft spot in me because they're very fragile. But there was this one beautiful, nice, she thought she could come with them little teary tears. Well, I don't want to do the homework at home. I said, listen, do the homework right here. Hurry up and get the homework. And listen, in the meantime, get a Kleenex and wipe the tears because I want to see no drips on the, you know, so you have to get that instilled at it because if you don't, they're going to realize, man, I can't respect any of these people out here because nobody gave me this, because they're going to know when they get older, man, I wasn't really getting disciplined at all. I really wasn't getting disciplined, you know? So really a question that I have that I ask moreover to all that come on is, how grateful are you to God for this teaching? How grateful are you to God for the man of God, for sent?
Oh my gosh.
Because look, you see there's so many lost people out there.
Yes.
You spoke to a lost person. That something happened to them. And you walk around, this person's lost it, but he just chose you as a piece of dirt. He chose, because that's how I put it. We don't want nothing but dust or nothing but piece of dirt. Ain't nothing special about us. I'm not no chosen one. I was never sad. I'm not, So how grateful are you to God?
I wish I had enough to put into my gratitude. I couldn't even begin to express how grateful I am, to be honest with you, how he saved me. I always say to my friends, like, he chose me as a very young, tender plant when I was a kid and groomed me up so I would be able to set myself apart. When I look back on everything, I'm like, wow, God was grooming me up from a child. He knew I was going to have to leave behind family. I had to be okay with that. I'm okay with that. He knew I was going to have to separate myself from the world. Stayed separate. Don't mind being separate. He knew I was going to have to be strong and be able to plant my feet no matter who came or who went or whose opinions. I can't tell you how grateful I am to God for that. He definitely is worthy and beyond anything, any praise that I could ever give him. And I'm so grateful that he sent Pastor Jennings into my brother and sister's lives. I'm so grateful for their nagging voices, just not letting it go and bringing me to church and making sure I stayed under those teachings. And Pastor Jennings is like another father, another family member. He helps you to even navigate your family, like whether you can get to him or not, which I have been blessed to have my boys sit under and talk to him, one-on-one if something's not right or whatever, and their father and I needed extra help. He's been there. I can't tell you how grateful I am for that. I don't think, I know for a fact there has never been anybody ever in my life, not even my very own father, that's been able to do it.
Wow. No, that's wonderful. And, sis, this was a wonderful podcast. It was very interesting in terms of the conversation and the dialogue. And I'm grateful for it. And I'm truly, truly thankful once again for you taking the time to come out and share your testimony. Because I know, especially, with 6 boys, 1 daughter, it's not easy. You know what I'm saying? It's not easy to take the time. I'm really, really grateful for it. And to all that are able to come and do it, definitely, most definitely, brothers and sisters, keep Sister Tania and her family in prayer. Keep that one son in prayer as well. Well, I don't know his name. Just tell God that one son Sister Tania was talking about. That's it. God knows who it is. God knows. Just right. God knows. My always gotta ask questions, but I want to know the name. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. And your family, because it's really as I say, the devil, he really wants to go after children, and I'm talking about very, very young, but of course he's still doing his job. And right. I'm just, keep Sister Tania, brothers and sisters, and the family and that son in prayer, sincerely, and I have to say sincerely, because we don't say this as a passive thing. When people are going on Facebook and saying, pray for me, saints, like that prayer you're giving out to somebody you probably just never met or know has helped them. You understand? The prayers, it definitely is what's kept him here, because first time he could have, listen, some people die from 1 bullet.
Yes.
And he had 3. Some people, it just takes 1. Yeah. You understand? And now the accident, it's with these things, my prayer for your son, sis, is really that he just takes it very slowly in terms of understanding holiness and really getting into it.
Yes.
Have a sense of urgency, but he really takes it slowly. I don't want it to be another moment where something, because that's what happens. People always, it's like nothing new. Always wait until it's like a bad moment where something terrible happens. Now they have their full strength. All of a sudden, they go back into what they're. So that's why, brothers and sisters, keep one another in prayer. I hope that there's, some brothers he could even fellowship among, because a lot of the times you're going to become who and what you are around.
That's right.
That's just a fact. Oh, no, I'm not going to ever do this and that. You're around thieves for a good amount of times. You're most likely going to steal something eventually. It's just not yet. It's just going to take time. That's all, and it's really the case of, that's why it's so important as brothers and sisters to have true fellowship, because it's tough. It's a big sacrifice. You can't do the same things like others do, or what their fun is just clubbing, whatnot. But at times, is it really harsh to just go bowling together? Wow.
Right.
I don't really know that, brother and sister. Exactly. Just it could be a group of you, 5. Just go for bowling, huh?
Yes.
Go mini golf or something. Fellowship. That's just a slow build up. I'm not saying give each other social insurance number or nothing like that.
Right.
I'm just simply saying it's it's bowling. Kind of see the left and rights about it. And because that right there to that brother, it could be a big help, or to that sister, because some don't know how. They don't know how to just come and approach, and say, hey, would you like, they don't know how. They're in this thing. Look, some people, as soon as they come in, first mentality, they're probably thinking, my days, all this strict stuff, does PJ let them breathe? It's just that mentality they have at the beginning, because they don't know. But once they start to see, man, wow, I could fellowship here and there. I can go and play here and there. Basketball. You understand? Or I don't know, something sisters love to do, so whatever, I don't know. Or even it could be a simple walk.
Yes.
It could just be a simple walk.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. If amongst, you're amongst each other, say, hey, sisters, are you available to just go for a walk today? Walk and fellowship and talk together, and, and just laugh. And then, you know what I mean? So now you can see, man, I could fellowship with my sisters. I could fellowship with my brothers. If you have the ability to be able to, get that with that, brothers, of course you have to be careful. With the teachings, I know it makes people careful, because you don't know what's coming in the church. You don't know who's coming in. You understand?
Right.
So yes, you have to be cautious. Yes, you have to be careful. But just a little step-by-step process. Just, that's that. You understand? Because I'm telling you, it could really help. We don't know what someone's dealing with. Now they're getting cold shrugs. Look, if someone's getting, if it's cold for some, yes, when you come to church for friends. No, I'm not saying that word, but it's good to have brothers and sisters. That one person who is getting the cold shoulder, now they can't, and they're by themselves. Eventually they're gonna start to look somewhere else. They're gonna go back with their friends, right? Next thing you know, small things creep in from what they used to do. Here they used to smoke weed, they got the smell. Now now they're tempted to do this thing. Man, it would, and it slowly gets into that. So that's why I say, it'd be important and it'd be helpful just to have the fellowship amongst brothers and sisters. That, like, put it like this. I'll give you a plain example right now. Myself and Sister Tania, I don't think we've ever met ever in real life. But the way the conversation dwelt, someone's probably thinking, man, they must know each other or something like that. I kid you. This is the first conversation I've ever had with Sister Tania.
It is.
Here before.
He's telling the truth.
Am I lying now? Am I lying? I said. You understand? So it's just, as myself, I am that outgoing person. But the way I talk to somebody, somebody will think, nowadays is this one of her, does she know him like that? The way they're talking, like they know each other. But no, it's just, how I put it. Now that there's 6 sons, sis, I have no problem and fellowshipping, just having a conversation. I know y'all in Alabama now. And
we're in Delaware now. We just moved, thank God. Yes.
Where now?
In Delaware. Yeah.
Oh, Delaware now. So you're no longer in the Alabama state now.
Thank God. Now.
Left that over there now. Yeah, what I'm saying. I left that over there. But no,
definitely not a country folk at all.
As soon as I hear Alabama, that's all I could just hear is the accent. That's it. That's all
it's exactly how you imagine it.
But no, as I say, as I'm putting it out, sis, I have no problem. Feel free, your sons can reach out to me, reach out to them, just start a dialogue, a fellowship term. If it's, of course, all right with you and your husband, I have no problem with it. Even, they're not fully walking on, just to get that, person they can talk to. Because that one proper good seed, and it's not necessarily myself, it could be whatever, it can help grow that person. Now that person, I'm going through this, man, maybe I could just talk to so-and-so, get proper advice. You know what I'm saying? Instead of getting this nonsense advice. Convention comes, we see each other. It's not like we're strangers. Y'all wanted to go eat together? Of course. That's, you know what I mean? Just that little 1-2 thing right there. I have no problem with it. So you see, brothers and sisters, I've done it. I'm not telling you to do something and I'm not doing it myself. Anyways, No problem, sis. No problem. That concludes, brothers and sisters. I hope you enjoyed this one. I certainly did. It's just
Thank you. I enjoyed it as well.
wonderful. No, sis, once again, thank you for coming on. Thank you so much for coming on and coming to share your testimony. That concludes it, brothers and sisters. Remember, the podcast affiliates itself with one church and one church only, and that is First Church of our Lord Jesus Christ, with the leader, teacher, and guide is Apostle Pastor Gino Jennings. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe and share. So look, brothers and sisters, when you like and subscribe, it builds the platform more. So now it could just pop up on other people's, like people who are not even looking for this type of stuff when you do it. So that's why the likes and subscriptions and the comments, it helps, because YouTube, it realizes it as like an important video, so they put it on one of the pop-ups. That's how some people, because with Pastor Jennings, with the testimonies, he said for some people, some of them weren't even looking for him; they just popped up. They just popped up. You understand? So it can definitely happen. But thank you very much, brothers and sisters that do so. Keep me in prayer. Keep Sister Tania and her family in prayers as we all do the same. Take care. God bless and peace be.